Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Community First Conversations. I'm Cortney Nicolato. I have the absolute privilege of serving as President and CEO of the United Way of Rhode Island. Thanks for joining us. This is a little different than we had planned. We had hoped to be live with you, and of course, Facebook technology did not allow us to do that today. So this is recorded, but we still want you to provide your feedback and thoughts in the comment box, so please do that. We really, truly appreciate it. As you know, Community First Conversations has been laser focused on bringing to light great leaders in our community and community advocates who have really just stepped up in a myriad of different ways during COVID-19. We also want to talk about ideas and things that are plaguing our state and the challenges that we have. And so this is a venue not only for us to have the ability to share this great insight with you all who are watching, but this is also an opportunity for you to share with us your feedback and perspective. Today, we are talking about a topic that has been on every Rhode Island parent's mind, including me, a mom of the North Kingstown school system. You have heard from Governor Raimondo and Commissioner Infante Green that safety is the top priority of our kids and going into the school year. For this reason, the Commissioner and Governor Raimondo announced earlier this week that schools will be delayed 2 weeks to give schools, students, and parents more time to prepare. The learning for our kids is critical, and not compromising safety at the same time is just as important. So I'm pleased to have two Rhode Island superintendents with us today who are sharing their tips and insights as we all enter these really, truly uncharted waters. So as always, please continue to share your thoughts and comments, and I will monitor and moderate questions throughout this conversation. So first up, ladies first, is South Kingstown's Superintendent Linda Savastano. She was born and raised in Newport and graduated with her bachelor's degree from Providence College and master's degree from Nova Southeastern, and also has an advanced degree in educational leadership from Bridgewater State. She was hired in 1989 to teach mathematics at Middletown and has served in a wide variety of positions at 4 Middletown public schools. What I love from her bio, she has a deep appreciation for science, technology, STEM, and specifically how technology plays in the educational space. She became an appointed superintendent for South Kingstown just last year, August of 2019, and currently serves on the Rhode Island School Superintendents Association Executive Committee and co-chairs the program committee. She also served on the Rhode Island Society of Technology Educators and served as president and executive committee. Like me, she is a proud wife and mom. She lives in Jamestown with her husband, Chris, who's also a high school principal, and 2 college-age children. So Linda, thanks so much for being here. And I'm going to ask the first question from you is something we ask every single person who joins us on these Community First Conversations. You know, at the United Way, Community First means every decision, everything, every action we make is ensuring that our community is first and foremost in that decision making. And so I ask you, what does Community First mean to you?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It is my honor. For me, always, it's kids first, and it makes it easy for us. We know that children are first, but I will say that in these months since March, we have realized how education is. I guess I think of the heart, the heart of a community in many different ways. And if we didn't realize it, we do realize it now. But truly, since March 13th, what has let that heart beat is the support from the community. And it's really been beautiful to be part of, and definitely a silver lining.
I love that answer. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it. And you started right before all this went down. This is your first year, as well as it is for Superintendent Harrison Peters. Harrison was named the state turnaround superintendent for Providence Public School District on January 27th. Let's all take that for a minute. January 27th, and 6 weeks later, we have a pandemic. So he has hit the ground running. He brings to this new role decades of education experience, a commitment to leadership development and community engagement, and is a firm believer that all students can succeed with the right support. Here. Superintendent Peters has worked at all levels of education, He's a former elementary school teacher, middle and high school principal, and senior leader in such large, diverse school districts as Chicago, Houston, and others. He recently served as Deputy Superintendent and Chief of Schools for Hillsborough County, a public school in the greater Tampa area with more than 206,000 students. Harrison, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming to Rhode Island and serving us. And I ask you the same question. What does Community First mean to you?
Yeah, no question. Well, being new to the community means even more to me, but just thank you for having us. We're really thrilled to be here. Through the lens of education, our schools are a microcosm of their communities. So we believe healthy schools come from healthy communities, and the partnerships that we create are critical. And I always say on my stump speech that the job of educating children is the collective responsibility of the school district and the community. And not only do we believe that, but it's also evidenced out in our turnaround action plan that we've recently published. One of the major pillars is engaged communities, because we know the value of community playing a role in education. And also it's rooted in the district's theory of action. So we believe in doing things with the community and not to the community. We believe that healthy schools come from healthy communities.
I agree. And I love the fact that you've brought in, so much time and effort with bringing the community into your conversations, right? How you developed your plans, how you have been thinking about, that turnaround has been, has really opened the doors to many, I think many parents, many teachers, many others who are ready and willing to roll up their sleeves. So I appreciate you doing that. Well, great. So let's talk, Linda, let's start with you. So, I love that one of the things I've had an opportunity to read both of your reopening plans, as well as most of the reopening plans here in the state of Rhode Island. And I love that on your plan, you have a guiding principle, and I'm looking down so I can read it. It says, we believe that there is an opportunity to reimagine school and be mindful of and build on what we have learned during virtual learning and adjust moving forward. I mean, I can't imagine March through June was just one big pivot and adjustment, right? So would you share a little bit about your learnings from the spring and, what the plan for South Kingstown entails today?
Sure. Thank you. So I will say it feels like in mid-March, we really learned what we were made of. We had about 15 minutes to kind of figure out, dismiss our students, and then reinvent ourselves in a week. And simultaneously, just to kind of, the lens of our vision, simultaneously, we are working on an $85 million building project in stage 2. So that's the kind of visioning piece. And there's a little bit of a reinvention that goes on when you have those conversations. So it felt like while we were querying parents, we were working with our parents through the virtual learning times of the spring. And we asked our larger community to kind of weigh in on this Padlet visioning board and said, what is their long-term goal for the vision for South Kingstown? While we know the challenging and stressful last 10 weeks have been a time of change and growth, while we rebuild our district back to a better place, can you help us think about the long-term vision and reimagine school for the future? And so the responses that came back from there really helped us to frame, if we ever needed to embrace flexibility, fluidity, personalizing, customizing, it was today. And it felt like that was the work that needed to shape us stepping forward in our re-entry design plan. I'll share, and I'll probably end up saying this a lot of times. And of course, you opened with, it's not only, it's, that safety. And of course, it's always safety, whether we're in the midst of a pandemic and a crisis or not, it's always safety. But what we've learned, it's also feeling safe. So not just being safe, but feeling safe. And then the other really foundational piece that I think we often, while we want the kids to be learning, we know that first or second, I'll say after safety, are the relationships. So making sure that we have the rituals, routines, and relationships, and then stepping into those academics. We know that what we're working on together is ultimately very personal for families. And so they have a lot of decisions to make. We've had a lot of decisions to make as a community. We have these decisions, but, and it's different. Everybody's situation is different. So it really was important that we do take this as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves and really think through the lens of what we can do to ultimately support learning, growing for our children in our community. And we've opted to do that through a lens of being in person and simultaneously virtual, and have built a program and a plan designed on that.
That's great. And so, you know, what were your biggest learnings coming out of the spring? You know, what did you find in your students? What were the challenges that came out of that experience?
Well, we do know that we can do things better, but aren't we really a professional learning community that's grounded in continuous improvement anyways? Mm-hmm. So no matter whether, again, in a pandemic or not, we should be asking ourselves. I do know that one of our challenges and one of our concerns are those students that it is harder to engage. And it can be hard to reach certain students through a virtual lens. And there were students that we tried to reach out to in different ways and will continue, but I will share that as we step forward, we know that we want to be back in person, and there are folks who have an angst about that, but we also have an angst about not being in person and what that will look like, and how do we make sure that we are, how do you ever make sure that folks, that our children are safe when they are with us every day? I think we feel like we're able to keep them safe, check in, make sure they're okay. And we know that we've seen some scary situations, not only in South Kingstown and Rhode Island, across the nation with children that we're not having come to school. And when they were virtual, we know that we've seen depression increases, and we know that we're not sure about our immunization rates being where they were. And the statistics, even on suicide attempts, are in Rhode Island for children is, just a reason that we really need to be thoughtful and give this 110% to get kids back in person and really dig into that data from the spring.
Yeah, and that we've heard the same thing. We've heard that behavioral health cases are up, that suicide attempts are up. This very, very quick shift out of normalcy has done a number on so many kids and adults, right? And so this idea that while it won't be normal this year, that getting back into a sense of normalcy does kids a wealth of good, not only from an education perspective, but from a health and well-being perspective. So no, we totally get it. Superintendent Peters, share a little bit about Providence's plan, and particularly I'd love for you to share how you've engaged the community around you to develop this.
Yeah, so just want to echo and ditto, Linda just had a drop the mic moment as she described just the extreme complexities of running a school district and how that has just been exacerbated by this pandemic. Obviously, your first question, Courtney, was it was around community, and they have to play a role in this piece. So as we think about just retooling education and how do we adapt to a pandemic, this is a major change initiative for us. I think the most successful thing involves getting feedback from the onset. We knew that we couldn't go with this alone. We just weren't equipped to know what's happening in all corners of the community. We felt that we need to deeply engage everyone. We surveyed nearly, all parents and got nearly 2,000 responses back just around their experiences. We also had 25 focus groups, more than 25 focus groups with students, parents, community members, business leaders, teachers, our labor partners, because all of those folks make a system work. I mean, we run labor-intensive systems, so it takes a lot of people to make sort of the wheels on the bus go round and round. So we felt it very necessary to engage all of those people because they're impacted in a different way. And we also did a lot of town hall meetings, just hopping on, listening to the things that are keeping folks up at night. And I tell you what, communities want answers. Parents want clarity. And we agree and we want to be able to provide that. So we've had to be flexible, but the intel changes every day. So it's important for me personally and my team to get out of this office, get out of this building and get in front of the people that these policies, these practices, this pandemic is impacting. So we've had a pretty significant, robust outreach, but I'm always from the school that we can do more. Our job is to make sure that we not only stand on the front steps of our central office with the bullhorn shouting out to communities, but we need to turn that bullhorn around and give it to our community so they can also engage us. So we tried to do that in several different ways, and I think we've done a good job. But again, our job is always to be, our aim is always to be better communicators and certainly have more timely communication to our parents and our communities.
That's great. And going, just following up a little bit further on the plan itself, could you share a little bit of highlights in Providence about kind of some of the aspects of the plan for, say, elementary, middle school, and high school, just little tidbits?
No question. Just caveat, it may change tomorrow and the next day.
Or in an hour.
Yeah, maybe after this call. A little bit about that. No, but really, RIDE has asked every district to prepare, obviously, for 4 scenarios, ranging from full in-person to full distance learning. Now, the idea is that public health conditions change. Districts may have to pivot among those scenarios. We've also created a virtual learning academy for families who either need or want 100% remote learning. Now, in all the scenarios, there's an element sort of in-person learning. We will require masks for everyone except those that have maybe medical conditions. We will also, as much as possible, keep students isolated throughout the day in stable groups, no more than 30. We will also try to maintain social distances between two big groups of at least 14 feet. We'll prioritize hand washing, we're cleaning and disinfecting. Full in-person learning is probably self-explanatory. Everybody's back in the building, we're in-person, more traditional. The fully distance learning scenario, if you're sort of not in the virtual academy, which is a little bit of a different format, it looks like the spring. A teacher has a group of students and he or she is engaging them, sort of the Zoom platform that we use at Google Meets. So those students and teachers remain together and they follow a classroom schedule. Now, the other 2 scenarios, partial and limited, they offer combinations of sort of distance learning. In the partial scenario, our K-5 students and our educationally vulnerable students will still have in-person learning 5 days a week. Students in grades 6 through 12 alternate between distance learning and in-person learning, cutting in half the number of secondary students in the building sort of at one time, trying to mitigate some of those infection rates. Now, in the limited scenario, students in kindergarten through 10th grade will alternate schedules, and students 11th and 12th grade, they'll be fully distance learning. So a lot of complicated things, but we're really just trying to make sure that we're responsive and aligned with the guidance of CDC and the DOH and also RIDE.
That's great. And I love that there's, I mean, I can't imagine 4 different scenario buildings that, you know, but that's the world we're living in, to the point that we talked about literally could change in the next hour. So Superintendent Savastano, can you share a little bit about SK's plan and how that may look or not look the same as Providence's?
So our approach, again, following Department of Education, RIDO, CDC, which we have very strict guidelines that we all the superintendents are, you know, and they, not that they don't change, some things change because we are living in a we're living in live science right now. Like, and so as best practice and research comes out, it changes. So we start in one scenario and we're going to improve our plans to meet the current safest element. The plan in South Kingstown is grounded in the ability to support simultaneous in-person and virtual. So that means that so if you imagine just kind of a regular school year, as much as it could be, but then each child has the ability, each family can choose a virtual option connected still in that classroom. So each teacher is doing a very, very heavy lift to simultaneously support a virtual environment and an in-person environment. And so if I'm an elementary teacher, that will allow me, maybe I will have 16 students in front of me and 6 students that are at home. And that class will still be my class. And we really kind of thought about this for a long time. My leadership team really that started unpacking this, because we knew that we were going to have students who would be in person with us today, but then today's Friday, but then on Monday and Tuesday, they may need to be out because they may just have, maybe it's an allergy, but it's a runny nose and they shouldn't be coming to school with that runny nose. But they're not sick and we want to give them access to the classroom. And then maybe Wednesday, now they're back. So we know that we're going to have an immense need to be flexible beyond flexible. And so this was the way we felt like we would be able to pivot on a dime, not just in terms of the entire district pivoting on a dime, but right down to the student level, be able to pivot on a dime. And so it's taken a lot of conversation with families to understand this. We've been meeting by our PTO has been helping us have the conversations. We've been doing it through the lens of their leadership. They're kind of our communication coordinators, if you will. And we've been having meetings with hundreds of parents at night talking through what this will look like, what it means. And so a parent today can choose 100% virtual or 100% in person or somewhere in between. And we have had parents who have chosen, I don't feel comfortable sending my child back 100%. Could they come to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and be home Tuesday, Thursday? And we feel like we need to do that today. So in that case, it's a conversation with the principal who's working with the teacher where that child is on their roster. And again, this is a heavy lift for the educators. We know that this is not going to be an ideal. I just actually had a couple meetings this morning where we're going through spaces, the instructional spaces, making sure they can simultaneously have a camera on a teacher, not on all the students in the classroom. But how can we have them live stream if they choose, record and upload later if they choose, have the students in the classroom have access to those materials as well through those platforms as the students that are home. So it's definitely an uncomfortable and new environment for all of us. But honestly, the entire thing has been very uncomfortable. But I am so blessed to be in a district with educators that are willing to reinvent themselves for children. And a school committee that supports that as well and gives folks choice. So as everybody's kind of wrestling with what does it look like, people can make the choice today for what they want it to look like. Because ultimately, what will happen on day one probably will look very different on day two anyways. So we thought we'd lean into it. The simplest way to describe it.
I call the level of flexibility we all need to have right now, like yogi, like to the utmost extent, like as flexible as you can get, because the world is changing and morphing and adapting in such unprecedented ways that, school is no exception. I know that there's been districts in the South that have started school and now, moved to distance learning. So I think this idea that you know, we are just going to continue to adapt and make options available, I think is the best approach. And so one of the things, like as a parent of 2 public school kiddos myself, the distance learning experience, I've always had an appreciation for teachers, but holy crap, I really have an appreciation for teachers. And especially the little ones, the kindergarten and first grade, and rallying the troops. And it's unbelievable to watch this, just the beauty of the profession. And I really truly appreciate it even more than you already did. So would you mind sharing a little bit about, and I'll start with you, Linda, if that's okay, is, you know, as a parent, and I know there's lots of parents that are going to be watching this, what can we do to best support the work that y'all are doing? You know, how can we make sure that those kids are as prepped and ready as possible for in-person learning? What are some tips you would give us?
So I think about myself as a teacher at heart always. I guess that's how, when you think of yourself, you know, I always think of, I'm a teacher from when I was tiny. I've always thought of myself as a teacher. And I think right now our parents need to help us and be teachers as well. They need to learn so they can educate themselves about the new normal. Schools, whether in person, virtual, whatever we land, and we'll land in all of it at some point in the future. You know, I always say, whether we're in person on September 14th or October 14th or March 14th, someday we are going to be in person, and it's going to be different. And just like the rest of the world is different for us, when we go to a store or when we go to a restaurant, when we pump gas, it is different. So it's important that we educate ourselves and help our children become accustomed to this new normal and prepare them. And we'll help. Our teachers, our principals will help with videos, because we know that as children walk into a school, it will look different. I think it's important for them to understand that socially distant will be needing to take place in a classroom, and to work with a child and not have them be afraid of that, to understand that's just so it's not scary, so we can keep each other safe. Or to know that how the importance of washing your hands or practice wearing a mask. And usually, you know, I said back in February, I felt like our schools were the safest place to be. You know, folks were, oh no, this is going to happen, and we are not sure if we should be sending our child. And right up to March 13th, I know schools follow the rules. No one follows the rules like teachers and like folks who work for schools. We make sure that we are doing due diligence around everything we're supposed to do, and our children are no different. But if parents can help prep them before they come, that would be amazing. Because it will be uncomfortable. And lastly, I just really hope that parents will explain that we're so excited to see them, and we miss them, and we can't wait to see them, and let them know that they'll be, you know, welcomed, and we're so excited.
And I know lots of kids love to hear that, for sure, and lots of parents. We're excited for you guys to see our kids, by the way, just as a heads up. We want you to see our kids. So how about you, Superintendent Peters? What would you share with parents in your community about as they're preparing their kids?
Yeah, so I'm feeling a hashtag here, hashtag flexibility, something like that. We do want our parents to be flexible. We want them to be a little patient with us. It is really difficult to stand up, you know, basically 2 school districts. And that's what many superintendents are doing. They're trying to figure out, how do we stand up 2 school districts with the staffing restrictions that we have, and also just from a budgetary perspective. We spent an exhaustive amount of money just on making sure we've got the supplies to keep people safe. I mean, that's important to us. But I mean, we would ask parents to be flexible, reach out to us, partner with us, because we want to make sure that you have reliable internet. One of the things that we learned in the fall, in the spring, is that all families aren't created equal. Access to internet it should be all right, but it's not. So that's important. So let's begin to work through some of those challenges now. Also check in with your support system. So if you plan or someone in your family contracts COVID or gets sick, like what's the plan for that? So think about what the family plan that would look like. I think we want to educate parents on just knowing the symptoms. We're going to ask parents and teachers to take those self-attestation tests every morning. That's going to help us out a lot. And if babies are not feeling well and they're expressing, and if they're exhibiting symptoms, keep them home, or we'll send them back home. If they are participating in distance learning, and I think this is really key. If you're participating in distance learning, please prioritize attendance. Attendance matters. That's important. Create a nice little working space in your home if you can, so students can sort of engage in that learning. And I think in a distance learning platform, being involved is absolutely critical. Now, more than ever, we've got the teacher, the parent, and the student right there on the edge of the computer. So the ability for us to deeply engage and really wrap our arms around our students, I think is even more prevalent now. And I just want to double click on what Linda said. Gosh, we miss our students. We miss them. We love them. We want them back. We can't wait to see them. We know that we've got to provide a safe environment, and we're working every day to do that. But I tell you what, I've talked to teachers and they say the same thing. They're delivering goodie bags and experiments, and they can't wait to get back to some sense of normalcy. But yeah, we just value the partnership with parents. It's going to be different. And I think flexibility and patience is the key right now.
No, I agree. And it's an activation. I know from our perspective, I spent every evening after dinner opening up my kids' Google Classroom, making sure they completed all their tasks for the day, getting them excited and helping them plan. And I think one of the things in distance learning that I've seen, and I know a lot of parents have seen, is this ability to help kids really think about working independently and thinking about how they can set themselves up for success. And those are life skills they're going to have for the rest of their life. So, I think that I'm a silver lining kind of girl. I'm always going to look for them. And I think that that's been one of them for many kids through this experience, but encouraging along the way in communicating with them, being vulnerable and honest that you don't have all the answers as a parent is so important right now. We're all many folks are going into workplaces in a very different scenario than before. And I kind of compare it to what the kids will go through as they go to school. I would love for you, and I'll start with Superintendent Peters, and then we'll go to Superintendent Savastano. But, at the United Way, targeting combating racial inequities for the purpose of strengthening our state is part and parcel of everything that we do. So I would love for you to share a little bit, Superintendent Peters, about what you guys are doing and how your focus is around ensuring equitable, high quality education for all kids.
Yeah, your question couldn't be any more timely, because yesterday, our Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, Dr. Barbara Mullen, put together an entire day long of professional development around equity and diversity. It was our Equity, Diversity, and Belonging Summit. And all day we had guest speakers and sessions where we had hundreds of teachers and community members really start to dig in this notion around equity and diversity and what it means to sort of offer that education in an equitable way. The other piece that I'm equally excited about is when we think about sort of opportunity, we've also launched a district-wide, hopefully city-wide learning opportunity. We've launched a study around TNTP's The Opportunity Myth. And the opportunity myth is a recent study where it describes sort of certain school districts across the US. They did a study across 5 sort of urban US school districts. And what they found was when you have low income families, even when students make A's or B's, and you think that they're thriving, only 17% of them are meeting grade level expectations. So it's really hitting the core of what we have to do. So it describes how the vast majority of our students either plan to attend college or desire, but ultimately the systems aren't necessarily set up to ensure that their success. So as we think about sort of this whole notion of equity and education, everything must be through that lens. How do we get every student, every child, what he or she needs to be successful? It should be in our curriculum, our instruction, in our hiring practices, in our professional development, in our daily attitudes. And it goes back to what I said about just having high expectations for our students. We gotta question the assumptions about what students are capable of doing. And we've gotta change from this deficit mindset to an asset mindset. Just met with all of our principals today and a sort of our back to school, let's get ready and let's really sort of ramp up and get ready for our kids to come back. And we talked about that many of our students feel real hardships in their daily lives, but also let's focus on the lived experiences that they bring to our community and from their communities. And they bring such diverse experiences and perspective. One of the videos that I shared this morning was from one of our recent graduates, Genesis. Genesis came to this country in the 7th grade, and she didn't speak any English. She started out at Stewart and went all the way through Central High School, ended up being the valedictorian. And she sort of just outlined her journey through the system. We've got a lot of Genesis in public education. One of the things that I wanted the principals to understand was, we talk about COVID now, but we've got to check our privilege and our bias. Genesis was dealing with COVID since the 7th grade. She came here not speaking English. That is her COVID. That is her crisis. So this crisis, this pandemic may be new to us who are privileged, but for kids who are living in trauma, kids who are living in poverty, COVID has been their entire lives. So we can't offer COVID as an excuse. So the second part of my message was, there is no COVID pass. When our students are applying for Brown and all of these other prestigious colleges around the, or even ready to get into the job market in the next few years, they're not going to be able to wave their hands and say, hey, I went to school during the COVID era, so I get a pass. No, 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 no. There is no COVID pass. So the equity comes in no matter what, no matter how do we ensure that every child gets that education that they need, irrespective of the conditions? Because talent and genius is equally distributed across zip codes, but sometimes opportunity isn't. And our job is to ensure that we're providing opportunities to all of our children.
You know, I love your comment around that folks have been dealing with COVID forever, and that's so true. I think one of the things that COVID has brought to light for some, but for a lot of us who have been in this work for a really long time, it has just exacerbated the fact that we have a lack of affordable housing here in the state of Rhode Island, the fact that, you know, we have to work on access to high quality education, to out of school time learning. You know, these are backbones to a life of prosperity and a life of justice, right? So, you know, we know that all of these are critical components to ensuring the health and well-being of our state over time. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Linda, I would love your thoughts. I know you guys have been deeply dedicated in work specifically around equity. I would love for you to share some thoughts on what SK's been doing.
And then how it overlaps with kind of this world is, I'll just share, to me, a little scary, because it feels like what we were afraid of before, what was happening, the gaps become even larger or harder to, like, it's like it's slipping away. So the kind of pieces I spoke about earlier, where we talk about, you know, children that are hard to reach on a good day are more difficult to reach today. And the work that we have to do, the lift, it's on us, right? It's on the school department to be able to bridge that gap, to reach out, to take away the barriers that are there. When we designed this plan, we've worked to embed as much equity as we can. And we were doing work before. We were trying to break barriers and culture. It's hard work, a lot of self-reflection. And when the systems that we don't even realize are there, it's difficult. But then as you unpack and step forward into this world, I do have a glimmer of hope in that as you need to customize and personalize, that it is letting us let go of some of those old rules that used to sit there. And we used to just follow the rules because we followed the rules and not because we were trying to meet children where they are, give them what they needed, just kind of tried to apply a one size fits all. Maybe that's how we were trained. Maybe that's what we thought were best. But now I think we've realized more than ever today what can happen when you dismiss that and when you do bend a little bit more. And so I do think it is our responsibility to continue to do that self-reflection in the work, continue to reach out and break the barriers in all different ways that maybe we've never even thought about before. And so I'm hopeful for us, but I know that we have a lot more work to do here.
Yeah, and I continually remind folks that this has been a 400+ year journey. And yeah, we're going to make great strides, but it's not going to be flip of a switch. This takes a lot of self-reflection, a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of a community coming together for the greater good, right? And so thank you. I appreciate your thoughts. And so, we have a couple more minutes to wrap up. So I always ask one last question of everybody who attends. And we have been in such a trying time. The last 6 months, I think no one walked into 2020 thinking that this is how this was going to go down, but it has. So I would love, and Linda, if you wouldn't mind starting, what has inspired you most during the last 6 months?
Definitely the fabric of the community. Just really, truly watching the weave come together to support. And it was an amazing journey through even the spring. Because we really had the 10 minutes notice. I kind of say that joking, but you had that 10 minutes. And then we had a situation where we said, yay, we're going to virtual, we can do this, and didn't have devices with children, didn't have access with children. And in that moment, we watched a community come together so we could deliver to hundreds across the district. That to me was eye-opening, that we were in a crisis and a pandemic, and people I didn't know were stepping forward for people they didn't know. And so that gave me, this kind of step into, wow, look what we can do. And it has continued to unfold and happen. So it's magical. I'll just say, to watch the magic of a community come together in these days that it's life-threatening. And folks are literally, putting their health and safety on the line to step forward so that a child can learn and grow, can be well, that a child they don't even know. What more could you ask for, to watch in life? So that's been just an honor and a privilege to be a part of. And I think, I would say, like, your strength is your weakness. And this is definitely a time that we know is an overwhelming time in a difficult way, but an overwhelming time in a positive way as well.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the community has come together. I think that should be a role model to our kids, so that they can see that when the going gets tough, we come together, right? And so hopefully that inspires them just as much as it has inspired you and many others. So thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent, how about you? Superintendent Peters, what has been inspiring you through this time?
Yeah, again, Linda, she goes before me. She's had a drop the mic moment. She's right. Community is our superpower. No question. Community is our superpower. Humans we're just so resilient. And when I think about this pandemic and I think about the spring, I witnessed incredible acts of innovation, incredible acts of kindness. Teachers I mean, literally, as Linda said, putting themselves at risk to deliver food and science projects to ensure that the students that they serve, that they love and care about, had what they need. We had teachers at our high schools using their 3D printers to create masks and shields to help out industry. Had a bilingual teacher who traveled to homes of our students who speak Quiche, and that's only a spoken language, it's not a written language, just so they could understand how do you log onto a computer, how do you access the class. High school principals and teachers and administrators delivering graduation signs because we couldn't have physical graduation. This pandemic, I mean, it showed me right away that the heart of the community is in the right place. And our ability to come together and coalesce around the collective promise of children is the absolute right thing to go. And I couldn't be more proud to be a member of this great community, but could not be more proud to be the superintendent of Providence. Just an amazing group of teachers and leaders and community folks that believe in education and believe that we're willing to risk anything and everything to make sure our children have a chance at life.
You know, thank you for that. I have always appreciated our teachers, but I have watched them go just above and beyond the call of duty in so many ways and our community at large have gone above and beyond the call of duty in so many ways throughout this this crisis and this pandemic. And you know, I think I really appreciate you guys both coming and talking with me today and talking about reopening and talking about the level of flexibility all of us have had and will need to continue to have. And, you know, I know, and I think many should, if they don't appreciate, this is not going to be perfect in any way, shape, and form, but it is going to be our best. And that's what we have been focused on at the United Way in our response to COVID-19. That is, I know all the superintendents that I've had the privilege of talking to, they know and recognize it's not going to be perfect, but our goal is to be equitable and to serve, right? And community matters. Your involvement, those who are watching, your involvement matters, not just for your kids that might be sitting at the dining room table next to you as you're doing a presentation. I may have a history there, or it's calling the school district, seeing what you can do, seeing what they need, just sending a note to a teacher, checking in, because teachers are also parents right now. And I think that that's another aspect of this. You know, they are teaching a set of children and trying to manage their own kids and distance learning at the same time. Like, this is hard. And but I have been inspired by our community, and I've been inspired by the work, and very grateful for the great leaders we have in the community, like you both. So thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing your insights with us as we think about the future of learning here in the state of Rhode Island. As everybody knows, if you want to reach out to United Way, Live United RI is our handle, whether it be on any type of social media platform. Our website is liveunitedri.org. I would encourage you to check out what we're doing in education, specifically our focus on grade level reading for kids in our partnerships with Rhode Island Kids Count and our Women United Affinity Group, as well as our out of school time learning. We are deeply dedicated to after school and summer learning in partnership with Hasbro and Women United and other groups. So I would encourage you to go to our website and learn more about that important work. Next week, we're going to talk about workforce development. So for those that might know, that's code for job training and opportunities on how to build up our workforce here in the state of Rhode Island. We're going to have a number of great leaders in that space talking about some really creative, innovative ways that we are not only just looking at the job training of today, but looking at job training and workforce development of tomorrow. So hopefully that will be live. We're so sorry we had technical issues today, but we appreciate everybody joining us as always and sharing your thoughts and guidance on these important issues. Again, superintendents, thank you so much for your time. And this will wrap up this edition. Have a great weekend.